Hello and welcome to News, Games, and More. I'm your host, Brian Altano. With me is Zach Ryan.
Hey, what's up?
Jonathan Dornbush.
Beyond.
And wrong show. And Casey DeFreitas.
Hey.
I'll get it right one
show today. You will. We have an awesome show today. We got tons of new news for some awesome new games. One we knew about for a long time, and one we just found out about, and both are launching on the exact same day because this is a weird, crazy year. We also got some more information about one of the biggest games of all time. Will soon be available for free. That's GTA 5. We'll tell you more about that in a second. And we got some stuff about Evo and Smash Brothers and how bad online won't allow them to participate this year. But before we get into it, we want to get into a quick thank you to our sponsor this week. That is PUBG Mobile. This week's episode is presented by PUBG Mobile, and last week PUBG Mobile just dropped a ton of updates, and with Season 13 premiering this week, you'll want to get trained up and ready to brawl with these brand new additions, such as drop tactic options that can be chosen in matchmaking settings when selecting the mode, with two options, hot drop and slow and steady. After a drop tactic has been enabled, players who have chosen the same tactic will be placed in the same team if possible, allowing for more competitive and coordinated matches. And with new tactics coming, a new update to the classic Miramar map comes with it, and so you can look forward to a new Miramar map vehicle and racetrack, perfect for motorheads and new Miramar achievements when completing multiple objectives. That's PUBG Mobile. It's free to download on every phone in the world right now, even your crappy old one. It won't run as well as your new one, but give it a shot. Go check that out. So thank you to PUBG Mobile for sponsoring this whole week. This is our first sponsor for News, Games, and More, a show we're very proud of, and we're very lucky to have you guys. So thanks a lot. Let's get into it. Today, we got a 14-minute state of play reveal for Ghost of Tsushima. Fans everywhere are so excited, including the dog walking down my street right now. Love to work from home. This is a game I think we've all been tracking for a very long time, but it's sort of been in the dark. I feel like we've gotten a couple details here and there, but today they really kind of blew the lid off this game. Let's go around. How do you guys feel about this? Starting with you, Zach.
I can't be more excited for this game. Honestly, I think it we've seen kind of bits and pieces of Ghost for a long time, mostly cinematic stuff. It's been a very slow kind of drip feed for this game, and this is our first real big look at what you'll actually be doing when you're playing this game. And oh man, this is extremely my vibe. I'm really into this big open world kind of stealth samurai game. I think it looks awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. Casey, how about you?
I'm gonna have to agree. Honestly, I haven't been following it too closely other than the first couple of trailers we saw at the first E3 it was revealed at, and it looked beautiful, but I wasn't really sure what kind of game it would be until what we saw today. I don't know if that's just me, if falling off the news train for this, but it looks just up my alley, exactly like an open world kind of game that I can get lost in and explore and kind of play to forget my surroundings. It looks great. I like the use of nature to kind of guide you instead of the stereotypical video game icons. I think that's really clever and awesome. I'm going to have a lot of fun petting those foxes.
Yeah. Also agree. Jonathan, you and I did a 30-minute special episode of Podcast Beyond today, which people can check out tomorrow. So I got a lot of your thoughts, but that'd be selfish of me to not get more right now. So what's your sort of overhead on this one?
I'm just going to play a clip from that episode and throw it back for a few minutes.
You brought a clip.
You brought a clip. Yeah, I brought a clip. Let's roll it. Thanks, Andy Richter. No, I really, really enjoyed this state of play. I think it was exactly what we needed from this game because, we've gotten several trailers for it, but it's been such a long gestating game that we really don't know too much about it. And I think this was a great giving you a lot of information about the game and what you're excited to play, but not spoiling it. It doesn't feel like the whole experience is now ruined because I saw 18 minutes of gameplay. This felt like a really, really great, concise, and well-constructed tease for what's going to be the full adventure.
Yep. Yep. Now, if you're watching this and you somehow missed this entire state of play today, or maybe you've been in the dark in this game in general, because that happens a lot. It's okay. You're busy. Ghost of Tsushima is essentially a open world game set in feudal Japan, where your character uses a combination of combat and stealth to traverse an environment that doesn't really overtly tell you where to go or what to do. You sort of have a lot of freeform options, and you get to, we found out today, use stuff like the guiding wind to navigate the open world. There's also, Casey's mentioned foxes. You can actually follow them to shrines, which will allow you to kind of pray and upgrade your character and stuff like that. There's resource collecting, which we see in a lot of open world games, but big presence of that here, which you'll use to upgrade stuff. You can get a horse and ride around everywhere, which is great. There's grappling hooks that you can use to get across ledges. And yeah, a fully customizable character. It feels like a little bit like that sort of Japanese Assassin's Creed game that everyone's always wanted, that I believe we only really got in like comic book form, mixed with, I think, a little bit of Breath of the Wild, and obviously some sort of, Sekiro or Tenchu sword combat. The combat specifically I thought was really fascinating, because it looks like it's going to really ramp up when you're fighting groups of people, but you can mostly, from what we've seen so far, kill a lot of enemies with one hit. Which I think is really interesting. It doesn't feel super video gamey in that regard. Mm-hmm. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like, I was kind of surprised to see so many Assassin's Creed comparisons today across social. Even in the chat right now, I see a lot of people, calling out Assassin's Creed. I mean, outside of the fact that it's a stealth game and you can jump on your enemies, like, I didn't really get a lot of Assassin's Creed vibes from this. I definitely was more into the hyper violent Breath of the Wild kind of feel of this. Yeah. Like, to me, the wide open landscapes with sort of geographical markers that you're tracking down, like that is much more interesting to me than I think, like, just kind of pairing it with one specific franchise or genre. Like, I don't necessarily know that it adheres to any one specific thing. So, I think that Assassin's Creed is the easy comparison because it is stealth heavy, but I think that there's probably a lot more going on in this game than we know yet.
Yeah, the developers did announce that the entire game takes place in the Animus, which I thought was pretty bold.
Oh,
no,
okay.
That's
Well,
not
then
true.
In that case, I'm wrong. Yeah. I stand corrected.
That's not true. Yeah, I can't get enough of this game. I think I went into this year being sort of cautiously optimistic about this one, maybe because I didn't really know what to expect. And it's been, I love Suckerpunch, but it's been a long time since we've gotten one of their games. And this feels tonally different than anything they've ever done before.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say too, is it's a completely different game than we've come to expect from Suckerpunch. They've been gone a long time, but they've resurfaced with something that is so, out of their typical wheelhouse, I think.
Yep.
Well, it's so interesting that they, like, their wheelhouse changes somewhat often by generation, because they went from Sly Cooper for so long, and then to Infamous, and there was definitely some connective tissue there. But now with this, like, outside of being sort of an open world, there's such a different, like, tone and sort of what seems to be the goals and the philosophy of this gameplay. It seems like such an interesting evolution of what they've been trying to do over the decades, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. A thing I really dig about this, outside of the customization options, is we heard today and saw today that you'll be able to play the entire game in black and white mode, basically, which doesn't really feel like, it sort of just feels like they desaturated the game. I'm hoping you can go in and kind of bump up the contrast a little bit too, maybe add some film grain. That would be really cool. But you can also play the entire game with Japanese VO. What are you saying, Casey?
Wasn't there some? I thought I saw some grain on it when they were showing it today.
Yeah. Their whole thing, like the whole game is so heavily inspired by, like, Kurosawa films and samurai westerns, things like that. They put that in there. Like, that's such a nice thing to have for samurai film buffs, and especially for, like, Kurosawa film buffs. Like, the idea that you could play the whole game in black and white. It kind of reminds me of Fury Road, when they put that out and allowed people to watch it in this, like, sort of monochromatic format, where it completely changed the tone and feel of that film. This is a similar kind of vibe, where it's, like, obviously this game is so, like, lush and colorful, and so that stark contrast with the black and white mode has got to lend kind of a more sinister or classic vibe.
Yeah,
I do want to know if any. Sorry,
No, go for it.
I do want to know if any of you are actually planning on playing the game in that mode, and I want to ask our audience that as well. Is anyone actually planning to play Ghost of Tsushima in the cinematic mode?
I think I will for a bit, at least for a few hours.
I think
I
my
probably,
first
I
go around.
probably won't.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
I was going to say my first go around, I'll probably keep it as is, just because especially everything we've seen, not just in this gameplay, but from like the last trailers. Like we've joked since the last Ghost of Tsushima trailer, but the leaves, the color and the like beauty of the leaves is so incredible. So I want to see these environments that they've been building, but I do want to see how the tone changes, especially once I've experienced it in black and white.
I also hope you'll be able to switch it back and forth between those two modes in photo mode, because then you can get really cool kind of classic samurai photos. That photo mode they showed off was awesome. I'm so excited for it, especially as someone who makes thumbnails for wikis. This is going to be great.
I'm also really happy
pretty
that it's there. It seems like it's going to be there at launch too, which there are still games that ship with that photo mode. I mean, Bloodborne still doesn't have a photo mode, which is a huge crime. But yeah, you mentioned Kurosawa.
Doesn't have one either.
Yeah, that's crazy to me.
That is a crime.
Yeah, I think that I think that if you're excited for this game, you should definitely check out some Kurosawa movies. Seven Samurai, obviously, Yojimbo, Rashomon, Grown Ups 2. He's like made some of the checking to see if you're paying attention. Sorry,
Paul Blart Mall Cop.
Oh boy! Oh god! Okay.
But yeah, that's Ghost of Tsushima. It's out July 17th, which is either right around the corner, or if the months this year have been any indication, years and years from now. So I guess we'll see how that shakes up. Speaking of July 17th, we found out another game that is inexplicably launching that exact same day, which we didn't know about until today, although we heard rumors. That is Paper Mario: The Origami King. That just got revealed today in a surprise trailer, not a Nintendo Direct or anything. Jonathan is incredibly happy for this.
I'm very excited. I really am. Yeah.
This is coming to Nintendo Switch. We had kind of heard rumors a few months ago. Many of us are on a weekly Nintendo show here at IGN called Nintendo Voice Chat, hosted by our very own Casey DeFritas. And we covered these rumors a little while ago about a Paper Mario game coming to the Nintendo Switch. And now it seems like it's real, and we got our first details. And boy, what did they do to Peach?
She looks such evil vibes coming off in this opening. I was thoroughly unsettled by this. I was like, oh, yeah, I don't like this at all. What happened to you?
Yeah, I think that's what you were going for here.
A lot of triangles at play in this demo as well, so that's nice.
Yeah, this is
Rivals Unreal Engine 5.
Speaking of cautious optimism here for this game, like I really love the first two Paper Mario games. And I've definitely played the other Paper Mario games.
Sticker Star was pretty good.
Ooh, no.
No? Gosh.
I disagree.
I kind of liked it.
Yeah, I think Sticker Star is pretty bad. I think Color Splash is pretty bad. Like, I think they're like pretty they're like 6 out of 10 games. You know what I mean? Like they're not very to me personally. But this looks great. Like I'm always down to play another one or give another one a fair shot. And this looks like it's doing enough cool stuff that I'm very interested in playing this game.
Yeah,
those arms look silly as heck.
I won't be playing it on July 17th because I'm definitely going to play Ghost of Tsushima first.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's suddenly an incredibly crowded release date. I would take either of those games today because I don't really have a lot going on. But then again, who knows? We might still be stuck inside in July, so we'll figure it out. You guys mentioned Color Splash and Sticker Star. I think that like the issue with these games a lot is they come in with this like really like kind of quirky and irreverent sort of art style, presentation, humor, and then there's always sort of like this kind of gimmick that, and I mean that in a good way, that kind of gels the whole thing together. But my issue with them is that they rarely sort of stick the landing in terms of like their long term. Sticker Star, I loved the first 3 or 4 hours, and then I realized the loop was pretty repetitive, and it kind of lost me. And I really, really like Super Paper Mario, but I think that's the one that's kind of come the best. from this franchise since the N64. It's a weird series if you think about it, because our first RPG was Super Mario RPG, which is arguably one of the sort of best RPGs ever made, and then it kind of split into the Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi franchise, and I don't think either of those kind of sides ever really reached the heights of the first game.
Well, and then they brought them back together with Paper Jam, which was not good either. For me, I think Paper Mario, the first one is spectacular, but I think it's Thousand Year Door on GameCube. That's really sort of the apex of it. And Super Paper Mario, while good, wasn't what we wanted. And the problem is every sequel since then has not been what we loved about those first two games kind of completely. Like there is such a charm and a quirkiness and a weirdness to those first two games because they decided to go so far out of the Mushroom Kingdom and introduce so many different characters and worlds that we're not familiar with. And these last ones just haven't quite nailed that charm for me.
Yeah.
I think I may have been more forgiving for Sticker Star because the only other Paper Mario I'd played at that point was Super Paper Mario. So I wasn't expecting anything when I played it. I was just like, oh, it's another Paper Mario game. So I just kind of took it what it is. And if I recall correctly, I think the other thing that hooked me was the plot was basically exactly the same as Inuyasha's plot. So it just, was great. You have an all-powerful item and it's broken up into a bunch of pieces and you got to put it back together after it corrupts a bunch of different things. Same thing as Inuyasha. Sorry. It's super ridiculous comparison, but I'm kidding, by the way.
No, we believe in you. The story here is I'm putting story in quotes because it's like I've never really come to these games for the story, but it's
very ridiculous.
It's nice. It's nice. It's there. Mario and Olivia are teaming up with unlikely allies such as Bowser and the Toads to battle the evil folded soldiers. And Olivia is apparently the sister of a guy named King Ollie, who is bad, and he turned Peach into that nightmare paper thing we saw earlier. That doesn't make any sense to me. So it doesn't matter what I said just now. That's the plot. That said, I think they're doing some interesting stuff with the battle mechanics this time around. One thing we saw specifically is this giant sort of puzzle wheel, which is kind of interactive and rotates on interlocking pieces that kind of conjoins to be half battle, half puzzle. There it is right there. Yeah. So that's kind of cool. I would say the towns look really awesome. The sort of open world-ish environments like Traverso looks really cool. Like, how do you guys feel about this game sort of as a whole in terms of like kind of traversal and how getting around is going to be? Does it look like it's going to be big enough?
Well, I think to your point about previous entries in this series, the idea that there's like one gimmick, there's one mechanic that ties the whole game together, and then they just kind of run that into the ground. It looks like there's a lot going on here. Like you've got this boat segment, you've got a lot of platforming stuff happening in this trailer. I think that maybe some of that variety will hopefully shine through. Obviously, we can't speak to how long or how varied it's going to be, but there are a lot of different environments on display here. So, I mean, these games I feel like are usually like 15 to 20 hours ish to get through. Yeah. Right. So if it's within that wheelhouse, I think it's probably a safe bet that it'll be there.
We've said this a lot on NVC, but it'd be really great to get a sort of a sequel to Super Mario RPG or a remake that's in the Mario and Rabbids engine. I have to say, the more I think about this Paper Mario game, as excited as I am for it, I am a little bummed that we still don't have the kind of spiritual successor to Super Mario RPG.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the Mario and Luigi games are closer to Super Mario RPG than the Paper Mario games.
Yeah.
And there are a couple of those games that reach nearly that same height, and I agree with you. I wish that they would go back and do a more traditional Super Mario RPG, or bring Super Mario RPG to the SNES app on Switch. That would be really great too.
Yeah, it's insane.
But at this point, I think that those universes have been splintered, so we'll ever go back to that traditional.
Where can you play the first two Paper Marios right now?
Nowhere.
Only at Brian's house. Brian has them both hooked up all the time. He's just waiting for people to come over and play.
I thought
right,
you'd
Brian,
never
open up.
ask. All right, bring a mask. The thing about this game is that this is always a tough line to walk for Nintendo, because I think that they tried to make, like, there are legit big RPGs coming to the Nintendo Switch this year, and then like I know a lot of you guys play them, right? I mean, you play like Zach, Casey, specifically Dorno. I know you're really into Kingdom Hearts. You guys play like big meaty RPGs here and there. What's it like to kind of dip down to play something like this? It's a little bit more kind of casual.
I love short
I'm into
RPGs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like shorter, contained experiences that I can finish. I feel accomplished. I mean, there's a reason I keep going back to Slay the Spire, because I can finish like a run in an evening and feel good about it, and it still gives me the same kind of challenge and enjoyment and sense of accomplishment that bigger, longer RPGs give. So
Right.
I'm down to switch around between big, meaty, difficult games like Ghost of Tsushima, and then come back to Paper Mario or something more casual.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you guys on that. Like, I actually, one of my favorite RPGs is South Park Stick of Truth, like, because it's something you can finish in like 15 hours, and it scratches that RPG itch without getting too kind of like lost in the wilderness.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's funny that you brought that up, because I was also going to bring those games into the conversation here, because like I think that there's a time and a place for like a 60, 70 hour JRPG, you know, like a big, like super long quest where you got to really like min-max your characters and things like that. And I think that there's also a world for smaller, more self-contained RPGs that tell like a really charming story and have like light RPG elements. And honestly, I'm like a pretty big fan of both.
Mm-hmm. So if you had to choose, yeah, that's it. So I guess Zach, you kind of already answered this, but if you had to choose between Ghost of Tsushima and Paper Mario Origami King, what is it going to be?
Well, I'm going to play Ghost first. I think it's probably my assumption is that it's probably a bigger time commitment, and there's, you know, probably more to do there. So I'll want to hammer that out first and then jump over to Paper Mario. Honestly, like this day and age, like I've been bouncing back and forth between Switch and PlayStation 4 quite a bit. So typically I'm not one to play multiple games at the same time, because I get too sidetracked and then finish neither. But yeah, I've been playing a few different things in this quarantine time, and I feel like I've been able to complete stuff. So who knows?
Jonathan?
Yeah, I'll probably go with Ghost first, for very similar reasons, but also because as much as I love the first couple of Paper Marios, like they're some of my favorite RPGs, the series has burned me too many times, whereas Sucker Punch has not. And so given the sort of excitement levels that I've had for this game for a long time, and what that state of play did for my excitement levels even further, that's the one I'm going to go to first, absolutely.
Casey, how about you?
I would choose Ghost of Tsushima first, but realistically, I'm going to play whichever one I need to do for the wiki guide, which will probably be Mario. So.
Fair enough. No, I think it'll be helpful, because I'm in the same boat as going with Ghosts. I was going to say it's going to be a weird week in Nintendo voice chat when Paper Mario is out and we're all like, we're playing Ghost of Tsushima. Sorry. Either way, I think both of these games are going to be pretty big, but neither of them are going to be as big as GTA 5, which is, I believe, the biggest game ever made at this point. 120 million units sold globally. I believe it sold 11 or 12 million in its first week or first 24 hours, something insane like that, which may beg the question, who has yet to purchase this game? And it turns out several people, because it is rumored to be the free game on the Epic Game Store. If you guys have been tracking this over the last year or so since the Epic Game Store like fully launched, they'll be giving out free games every single week. Or every few weeks, which has been really great. It's something I'll pop into periodically, just kind of queue up the free games and then add to my account where you get to keep forever. That's sort of been their way to kind of satiate people who are pretty upset that they came in and disrupted the PC gaming market that was originally kind of just run by Steam. So Epic put up a tweet just the other day saying, get Grand Theft Auto 5 for free until May 21st. It's yours to keep forever. And then they deleted that tweet. And so the rumor is that this is going to be their big free game this week, possibly in the next 24 hours. They put up another tweet last week of a photo of a giant vault, being like, what's in the vault? And I don't know, it seemed, no pun intended, like a pretty epic thing would be in there, something grandiose. And don't laugh at that. And I'm glad it's something like this. So apparently this has been so popular that it might have potentially crashed servers for Fortnite. And I don't know if that's just people hitting the Epic Store, downloading the Epic Store for the first time, or searching for it. So yeah, how do you guys feel about this? This is the biggest game probably ever made being given away for free.
Honestly, also, really quick, I wanted to interject that it seems like all of YouTube is down right now. Just to put it out there, so just so you guys know.
Thanks a lot, GTA
anyway,
5.
Continue. Broke the internet.
Great.
I think that I kind of had the same thought that you did, Brian, when this was announced this morning. It was like, at this point, who doesn't own this game? Like, I mean, it's the highest selling like anything of all time. It's insane the number of units that it's pushed across all the different platforms that it's on. But I think Epic is going to be able to give this away for free. I mean, for people that don't have the game, they're in, and somehow if you've managed to never play GTA 5, you're in for one of the best, like most expansive video games of all time. So that's really cool.
I just bought it for the first time actually in December because it was on sale on the PSN. Because when it came out, I was a poor college kid, so I like redboxed it for a week or two and then never owned it. Yeah. And I do think because it's been out for it's a game that's been out for so long and it is such a recognizable brand that people who maybe didn't get around to it when it was out earlier and maybe they were too young to get it or whatever the situation may have been, this game still keeps selling because it's like almost consistently in the top MPD reports every month even now. Like this game continues to still sell so huge, and I think it is just such a like monolithic thing, but maybe they were like a pretty good partnership between Fortnite, one of the other biggest games in the world, and GTA, and they're like, Epic probably knows how to get people to come to the store, and they did that with GTA 5.
Yeah, I actually would be really happy if they dropped like a Trevor skin into Fortnite as a sort of handshake on this whole thing. That would be ridiculous. I think like what I've done specifically is I bought this game on PS3 and then I think I bought it again on PS4, and I'll totally download it on PC because I've never really messed with all of the mod support this game has. On top of it being like this incredible sprawling open world single player game, it has GTA Online baked in, which is one of the, I would say, most expansive kind of MMOs ever made. It is consistently growing. It is consistently getting new content. There are people that like have they run businesses and apartment complexes in GTA Online. Like it's ridiculous.
It's one of the most batshit expansions that I've ever seen in my life. Like it is just this whole other entity in and of itself. And you can, like you're saying, like you can run around in a gang. You can do these insane car races where your car transforms into a jet and a submarine. There's just like limitless possibility in that online. It's really, really wild.
Yeah, we interviewed a group of people that started a motorcycle gang in that game a couple years ago, and they follow the rules, and it was like part of them that they started adding just like all motorcycle gangs, they follow the rules.
Well,
I think by that means like they have a code. I think they still shoot cops and stuff.
Going on in the game right now between people dressed as green and purple aliens that Matt Perslow from our UK team actually just wrote up. And they have rules that they operate by. This was not an official thing, but some people just started dressing up as aliens and going out and pranking people. And now they're at war with each other. And Rockstar recognized this and made the outfits free for people to get because they used to be pretty expensive. And so, the environment for people to play in is just so big and so responsive to the moment. I can see why people get sucked into it.
People have full role-playing servers where everyone follows the rules, and if you like skip a stop sign, if you skip a stop sign, an actual person role-playing a police officer will pull you over and ticket you and put you in jail. And it's just insane the kind of worlds and communities that people have built in this game. Like, if you want to, anything you want to do, go find a server on GTA about it.
In GTA Online, if you run a stop sign, you got to go to jail.
It's depending on the server that you are in.
That seems, I mean, the punishment does not fit the crime in that regard.
Yeah, I don't think so. But no, I find that fascinating because it's in lieu of this game ever getting like proper story DLC, people are just making up their own stories in this game. Like, it's actually crazy to me that the best-selling game of all time never got like a standalone story DLC. But it's also, I've always said this, but like if you want a sequel to GTA 5, stop buying GTA 5. Like, stop pumping money into GTA Online. People put millions of dollars into this game, and Rockstar's getting the message that like, why would we rush out and make a sequel to this game? This is selling so well.
Yeah,
it's still one of our, like, I was just gonna say, it's still one of our best wiki pages all the time. Like, it's difficult for a new game to beat out the GTA 5 wiki.
Yeah, we know that Rockstar is. I said we know that Rockstar is in like at least early days in development on GTA 6. And Brian, they've taken a page out of your book because they've gone out to say like, hey, this is probably going to be a shorter experience, right? Like, I think that they, maybe they obviously there's profit in GTA 5, but it's also like you want to keep that franchise relevant. You want to keep it alive outside of this, ever expanding multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's played Red Dead or GTA 5 and been like, this game is really small. Can you guys make it bigger? Like, these are gigantic games. So GTA 5 is available right now on Steam and the Rockstar Games launcher, and so putting it on the Epic Game Store would sort of complete the trilogy of big places you can get it. That said, according to the deleted tweet, it will only be available until the 21st of May. So expect this to go live tomorrow, and then you'll have about a week to grab it, and you can just add it to your account basically, and just keep it there forever, and then play it whenever you want to play it. But yours to keep forever. So keep an eye on that. In the meantime, we got news or sort of non-news about a potential other AAA game. Ubisoft is teasing one more mystery AAA game that will be out in the 20 to 21 window. Not a ton is known about it. But we found out earlier this year that Ubisoft said they would have 5 major AAA games set to be released in its next fiscal year. Part of its most recent earning call, they talked about all of them, and they said, basically they're working on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Watch Dogs Legions, Gods and Monsters, and Rainbow Six Quarantine. That's 4 out of 5 of those. And so that leaves another one. There's the potentially frequently delayed Skull and Bones, which many of us actually played at E3 a couple years ago and then kind of went away. There's potentially a new Far Cry. There's that Beyond Good and Evil sort of like insanely expanding tech demo that felt like too good to be true. And there was also, stuff like Splinter Cell and Prince of Persia, long dormant franchises that people really love that we haven't really heard anything about. So yeah, what's our predictions on this one?
So could you clarify, is this a game that for a franchise that has not been announced before or has been announced before?
I can say, since I wrote the story, basically the wording they gave in their report was a yet to be announced franchise, which would, to me, I mentioned in the story, to me implies it is a known franchise, because I don't think they would say franchise. They would probably have said like a new IP or something new to start off. I think it's something that'll be a franchise we know.
So a yet to be announced franchise entry in a franchise, but what Ubisoft franchises don't have a game coming right now,
Far Cry specifically.
Yeah,
like
I guess
Cry,
Splinter Cell. Yeah.
Mario and Rabbids.
Ooh, all right.
Ooh, that's a really good guess. So Far Cry New Dawn came out last February. So lining with next-gen consoles potentially as a launch title, that would be a 1.5 year development between that. And keep in mind, New Dawn was an expansion on the original Far Cry 5 that came out a year before, or 9 months before, and reused the entire map. in its entirety. So I think there's something there. That game sold incredibly well. But then again, Mario and Rabbids is one of the best-selling Switch games, period, which is amazing. Which that's kind of a different story though, because it's like they're not like, that game wouldn't be coming to PS5 and Xbox Series X. So that would be a platform exclusive title to Switch. So I mean, obviously the ones I really want are something like, Splinter Cell or Prince of Persia, just because it's been so long since we've had one of those games. Splinter Cell specifically, they've teased Sam Fisher in like so many things and put him in like they've kind of nods to him in so many Ubisoft games for the last few years.
You find his goggles in Odyssey.
Yeah.
The last week, a Prince of Persia prototype or Prince of Persia like demo proof of concept kind of started making the rounds. Apparently it had been up for years, but nobody had really been paying attention to it, and it just made me remember like how great that series is. And I would love it if it would be a Prince of Persia reboot or next entry in that. That'd be awesome.
I personally would prefer a new Prince of Persia over Splinter Cell, but I know a lot of people will be really mad at me for saying that, but that's okay. It's my personal preference. But I hope you get what you want, whatever that is.
Yeah.
I mean, I honestly mostly want a new Far Cry game just because I love those. I would actually take an entire Far Cry game that takes place in the Gods and Monsters engine. I know that's insane, but that would be super fun. Far Cry games are the kind of games that I just like. It feels like there's like 3 or 4 days a year where I just like completely lose my shit and play one of those games to 100% completion, and I'm up until like 4 o'clock in the morning, just like screaming at the top of my lungs, raiding camps and like shooting cages with hyenas in them. Like, I have so much fun with those games, and then I finish them and I never think about them again. It is just like it's basically like it's just like binge eating garbage for 4 days.
Yeah, I remember. I forget what year it was. It must have been 2016 or 2017 when Far Cry Primal came out, and like you played through that whole game in like 4 or 5 days, and you got the platinum in it. And then like months later, when we were talking about Game of the Year, it came around and they're like, okay, let's go buy a release. Like Far Cry Primal, and like I'm looking at you across the table, and I was like, didn't you platinum that game? And you're like, oh yeah, but no. It's just like,
it's a guilty pleasure franchise for me. It's not like, I don't think of it as Game of the Year quality. I don't think of it as like it's never up there when I'm like, 5 games you got to play before you die. The one where if you like punch enough cows, you can make a gun. Like that's like it's a stupid ass series of games. Even Far Cry 5 was like super serious in its presentation, and then like ultimately like you had to blow up a bunch of bulls and collect their testicles in that game. Like, it was super dumb. But I'm into that. But no, I'm with you guys. I think a Prince of Persia would feel right. That's like a really magical franchise.
Yeah, and it's been a while since we've seen one, and it's also like that game has had so many different iterations, like completely different kinds of games. I think Prince of Persia is a perfect franchise because like because you could just like slap any sort of genre behind it, and it's still Prince of Persia.
Yeah, I mean that's the game that started off as Ooh, that's a really good question. I mean, no, because Assassin's Creed movie didn't kill that franchise, so.
That is true.
Yeah, they made a Prince of Persia game that was adjacent to the movie, that was like also not super well received. But so maybe you're right. Maybe there is some like correlation there, Casey.
Yeah. Jonathan, what's your sort of? It's okay. You don't ever feel bad for pointing out that a video game movie was not great. That's hardly a controversial take. Jonathan, what's your sort of like pick of like, is there a franchise that Ubisoft has that you think would be a good front runner here?
I actually brought a clip where I talked about this earlier, so we can just roll that.
Let's go to the clip.
Hey everyone, it's me. No, I wanted to. That was our clip. No, for me, I think Far Cry is the most likely candidate. As much as I think a Prince of Persia or a Splinter Cell would be cool, and obviously people are constantly asking for them, the thing about those two franchises, at least where they were left last by Ubisoft, is that in terms of like major AAA game development, they're not at the same scale as where all of their other franchises have been, or currently are. So I think those two series would need to be like significantly, if not reinvented, at least rethought and restructured to fit into sort of the standard Ubisoft model and what we expect from their games currently.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that like that's the kind of unfortunate truth of all this stuff right now, is that like, can you just sell like a 12-hour long sort of like single player action platforming game in the form of Prince of Persia? Does it need to be an open world? Like even the Far Cry games had sort of cosmetic DLC, and you could pump real money in to unlock, random weapons and items and stuff like that. Assassin's Creed last time around notoriously had that $10 DLC that was optional that sort of doubled the XP you got. And so, yeah, I think it's got to play into whatever model, the business model that we unfortunately have to deal with modern video games and rising development costs.
I think you could sell a Prince of Persia or a Splinter Cell, but I don't know if it would be classified, because this is a very specific, like 5 AAA games we're talking about. And like we've said, like I wouldn't be shocked if there's another Mario and Rabbids in development, but I don't know if it's being considered in this 5-game pantheon that we're talking about right now.
I think it very well could be at this point, because like that game was such a surprise success. Like I think that in a weird turn of events, the negativity that it was originally met with when it leaked ended up working in its favor, because nobody really expected that game to be as good and as polished as it was, and that game kicks ass. So I think just given the critical and commercial reception of that game, I would put it in a top 5 franchise for Ubisoft if they were going to come out with a second one for sure. It's got Mario and the Rabbids. That's a winning combination.
Yeah,
I know.
I don't know about those Rabbids, but
no. You know who loves them? Is France.
Yeah,
who?
France does love the Rabbids. Yeah,
France, the place loves Rabbids. Huge fans over there. That's kind of like their Minions, which I thought was already just their Minions. We got some other news this week, just recently, about another critically acclaimed, commercially loved franchise. This time with less positive news around it. Titanfall is apparently in stasis right now. The Titanfall franchise currently has no new games in development. Vince Zampella, who runs the studio Respawn, most recently launched Jedi Fallen Order, did an interview with IGN where we asked him about the Titanfall franchise in honor of the studio's 10th anniversary, and he said that there are currently no Titanfall games in development, but it's always there. The bummer about this is that we'd heard rumors a while back that there was a Titanfall game in development, and I don't remember specifically what those rumors were, whether it was like just an online game or a VR game or something like that. But it seems like Star Wars kind of came in and took that studio in a different direction.
Yeah, Jonathan, correct me if I'm wrong here, but it wasn't that specific. It was, I believe it was around the time that Apex Legends had come out that they had said that they were still working on a Titanfall game.
It wasn't a rumor so much as like Vince Zampella actually tweeted out. He was like, "Hey, we are still looking into Titanfall for later this year. Like, stay tuned." It was a thing that they like actively talked about. We have it covered from the beginning of. I think it was February 2019. He said that, so it was one of those things where he said it, and then Apex happened, and then we all kind of forgot because Apex and Jedi took up so much of the conversation, especially about Respawn.
Right. And I think they both sort of satiated what people wanted. One was a, sort of visceral first-person action shooting game, and with, completely online. And the other was a third-person, action-adventure story-driven game. And it was completely single-player. So I think that, like, from that studio, we kind of got a lot of the elements of Titanfall spread out over multiple franchises and games. But this is still kind of a bummer to me because Titanfall 2's single player campaign was awesome. Like, it was really good.
I think it's the best first person shooter campaign this side of Metroid Prime. Like, I think the stuff you do in that game is mind bending. It's amazing.
Totally with you. Yeah, and it gets like the second half of it specifically gets like really bonkers and very like hard sci-fi, really creative.
Yeah, really cool.
So yeah, I love that.
Me too.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on this one besides it sucks? This is bad news, and I miss Titanfall.
I guess this is just more
everyone
I
in
was
the
just
same
gonna
room.
I was just gonna say, I guess this is more of a reason to go back and revisit Titanfall 2, especially if you haven't played it, because it's not like you can just hold out for the next one. You might as well just go back.
Yeah, I also don't necessarily think that it gets like terrible bad news, because Respawn makes good games, and the chances are, like, what I think is probably going on is that they were working on something that is far enough removed from Titanfall that they just decided to call it something different. Like I think that they are a tried and true developer that makes really kick-ass games, and so it might not be Titanfall this time around, but it will be something good.
Yeah. An interesting thing about this is, I don't know if you guys remember, I guess right after Apex Legends launched, Titanfall 2 had a massive surge in online players. Had tons of people return to that game, probably sort of like in celebration of Apex and the studio in general, but also because wasn't Apex Legends essentially kind of a Titanfall spinoff to begin with?
It sets
in universe, right?
Yeah.
And so
who have jumped in with Apex and are like, oh, hey, check out, there's these other games in the Apex Legends universe. That's kind of crazy. Like, Apex just so surpassed it, even though, there was so much critical acclaim for Titanfall 2 in particular. I think Apex went to a different level than they or any of us really ever expected. And then, of course, Jedi Fallen Order, it's Star Wars, so it was probably going to be popular, but it was so a breath of fresh air of like, oh, thank God, a really, really great Star Wars game from launch, that I think that really just became the focus for the studio.
Right, and we covered a story, I believe, last week on the show about that Respawn announcing that there will be more games in that series, which I think we all knew, we all guessed. And so we'll probably get more Apex Legends content for probably years to come, and we'll definitely get more Fallen Order stuff, which is great because I'm a big Star Wars fan. But I'm kind of bummed that we are not going to get a new Titanfall, at least for a little while. But they did say never say never. We found out this week about EVO, which is now EVO Online. EVO is the what was the kind of premier local fighting game tournament, covered about a dozen different games every single year. And Super Smash Bros. Has long since been a part of that. After a much back and forth a few years ago, it sort of solidified its place. But we found out that this time around that Super Smash Bros. Ultimate will not be in the EVO 2020 roster. EVO Online will replace the physical competition this year due to the impact of COVID-19 pandemic. And Super Smash Bros. Ultimate is not there. Some people are theorizing it's because the online in that game is not good. How do you guys feel about this?
Yeah, that sounds about right. There's actually a hashtag going around right now on Twitter called Fix Ultimate Online. So if that tells you about the state of Smash Ultimate's online service, that it kind of fills you in. And Nintendo hasn't been great at responding to that or fixing it. I'm still unsure like why the experience of playing Smash Online is so bad compared to other online games. I get so frustrated with it that I just don't want to play it online anymore. Like, I tried to play it for the first couple of months it was on because it was new and it was fresh, and I was willing to deal with the delay or the lag or any of the other issues that would come into it, and eventually I just got sick of it and stopped. But the thing is when those things happen for an online tournament, you have to redo the game. And because those problems are so prevalent and common, imagine how many people would have to redo their matches and how long that would take to actually get through a tournament online. And I just think they want to not have to deal with that going forward. But that's just speculation as to why it's not being a part of it. I mean, I know in 2013, Nintendo just straight up didn't want Smash Brothers Melee a part of EVO at all. So who really knows what the problem is? But it probably is just the online.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. I've tried to play this game a couple times, especially around launch, and it was such a bummer that it was like basically a slideshow. And I can't even imagine how miserable the user experience would be to be sort of like, at the last bit of health, or knock somebody clear off the board and wonder if they're going to come back, and then the game just crashes and you have to redo it again. I mean, that sounds like it's such a bad way to watch a competitive tournament for a video game. This is such a bummer, and it's such a running theme with online Nintendo games, to the point that it's just a joke at this point. Like, and a couple of years ago, they launched Nintendo Online. They charge people $20 a year for it, and I think they rectified the fact that it wasn't a good online service by going, well, we're also going to throw in these free NES and SNES games. And then even those stopped appearing every single month. And so I think that like the kind of bottom line on Nintendo Online is that it's really cheap, but it's still kind of a ripoff, because I don't think it's doing anything like really well.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of get what you pay for, right? Like $20 a year. Like when you compare that to other online infrastructures, it makes a little bit more sense, right? Because $20 for the entire year versus, what is the PlayStation's? It's like $60.
Yeah.
What is it?
Is this
$50?
I think it's up to 60 now.
Well, it's like Nintendo's not ever really been great at online, but they're not also like willing to put the investment into making that much better, it seems like. And ultimately Evo is about precision, and if you take that out of the equation, then you don't really have a competition there. So like it would make sense that this is largely in part because of the online.
Yeah,
I know this isn't competitive, but I would play Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate online, and I didn't really have
You play Monster Hunter?
problems with it. I know, who would have thought, but I don't really have it's the only other game I play online on the Switch. Like, I don't play any other games online. Like, I want to play Smash and Monster Hunter and maybe occasionally Splatoon, but that's not my thing as much as the other two. And Monster Hunter doesn't give really any problems besides not having voice chat, but that's why the PS Party exists, so you have both systems running at the same time. Or you can use Discord like person. But
let's see. We have a few minutes left, and I'm worried this next story will consume all of them because Jonathan Dornbush is here. This is dangerous, but this is why I'm glad you're here. There's a rumor going around on a website called InsideTheMagic.net. So huge grain of salt right off the bat. Mm-hmm. But apparently, according to this rumor, there is potentially a Kingdom Hearts TV series in the works that would feature Sora, Donald, and Goofy journeying through various Disney universes. We obviously believe this could potentially be a Disney Plus show. No shortage of need for content on that platform. They just fast-tracked the Hamilton movie from theaters a year ahead of its release date to come next month, or in July, I believe, to Disney Plus. Mm-hmm. Jonathan, first of all, on a scale of 1 to 10, how real do you think this rumor is? And secondly, on a scale of 1 to 10, how badly do you want a Kingdom Hearts TV show?
For the first question, probably, I'm sure in some meeting someone has mentioned this idea to someone. With these types of things, with like the Disney Plus and a lot of the streaming services, I tend to, when it comes to TV shows that are in development, not officially announced, if it's not coming from like Deadline, Hollywood Reporter, or Variety, I tend to take that stuff like heavily with a grain of salt, unless we have our own sources on that. And we don't for this. So this is definitely for me right now a like wishful thinking sort of thing. In terms of how much I want this show to exist, I mean, if it is actually in the works, I guess someone at Disney finally read the script I sent to them so many years ago. So that's good. No, I would love it. I do think there is a way to do this story well and make up for some of the convolutedness that I think a lot of people throw Kingdom Hearts' way, fairly and sometimes unfairly. But they definitely, I think, made some of the story decisions in that series as it was ongoing and as certain parts of it were delayed, whereas now that the whole story is out there, you can kind of take a holistic approach and be like, okay, what actually should work and what doesn't work as a narrative. Right. And I do think there is a streamlined way to make a bunch of Disney properties interact and intersect with each other in really fun ways. And I do think there is a ton of potential for a thing like that. And it's kind of crazy to me that Disney hasn't just done that on their own without Kingdom Hearts in any sort of way for Disney Plus yet. But I totally think we will see like Disney properties coming together in some way on Disney Plus. I just don't know if it'll be a Kingdom Hearts show.
I mean, like the idea of tying Disney properties together is really interesting. I just don't know if Kingdom Hearts is the medium for that, because it is so obtuse and it already has, a decade's worth of baggage attached to it. Like I like the concept of jumping universes in the Disney format, but I'm not sure that Kingdom Hearts is the way to do it.
Sorry, the problem.
I was going to say I would like a Kingdom Hearts show, but in an animated form, not a live action.
For sure. Oh yeah, I think if I saw live action Goofy, I think I would throw up.
But if they do a live action version, I would like to motion that Haley Joel Osment still plays Sora. I think that would be great.
That's a great idea.
That show would be amazing to watch. Yeah,
who do you think should play Pooh?
Landmass is Sephiroth.
That's bad.
Classic.
Who's the voice actor?
Yeah, in the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I don't want this to be live action at all. Not at all. That's no, definitely not.
Brian, who are you kidding? You're not watching this show whether it's live action or animated. I mean, be honest.
Okay. No, of course I'm not. I don't think I would watch a Kingdom Hearts show if it was the only thing my TV could show. I think I would just I would just do literally anything else. No offense to Kingdom Hearts.
Of course not. No.
Finally get into what?
Books.
No,
books that I've been hearing so much about.
So stay tuned for that. I really hope it's not live action. Just because I don't want to see those things.
Do y'all use Disney Plus on your PlayStation 4?
Yeah, I have.
Does it suck? Is it just me? I feel like
the
app, it constantly hiccups, right? Okay.
Yeah, every show, like the UI works pretty well for me, but literally every show pauses somewhere in the first 2 to 5 minutes and then has to skip back 30 seconds. Yeah,
like the audio keeps going, but the image is frozen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'm like finishing up my first watch of the Clone Wars, and it's getting to a point now where it's like I kind of refuse to watch it in my room because I only watch it on PS4, and it sucks. Like, it's a bad experience.
Do you have a smart TV?
I do have a smart TV.
So download the app.
I guess I can just do that. Yeah, good point. Thank you. Moving on.
Yeah, moving on. One last story. Star Wars Battlefront 2 has been one of the most, I think, fascinating kind of redemption arcs in video game history. It went from, I think, having one of the most sort of disastrous PR launches in history, riddled with loot boxes and, microtransactions and stuff like that, to something that has become this incredibly beloved, sort of ever-expanding love letter to Star Wars. Fans have adored it. It sold millions of copies, but we found out just a few weeks ago that it's getting a little bit more DLC, and then that's it. The developers are moving on, to which 50,000 people said, no, please, keep making stuff for it. We'll pay for it. There's a change.org petition kicking around, which I hate talking about those things because like there's utter insanity on change.org, like make all pizza pineapple and let's not have TVs anymore. Like there's garbage on that website constantly. But this is fascinating to me because 50,000 people so far and climbing are willing to pay out of pocket for the developers of Battlefront 2 to keep creating new maps, heroes, skins, weapons, all that fun stuff. How do you guys feel about this? Like the turnaround on this game is incredible to me.
Do you think there's an opposite? I was just going to say, do you think there's an opposite petition saying to no, please stop adding stuff to this game and please stop? It must be, right? Do you think it would have more or less Signatures.
That's a great question. That's a great question.
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I think if DICE is saying like, "Hey, we've done enough Star Wars for a while. Like, we want to do something different. Let them make something different." Like I get that this game has so much content and it's probably made so much money that like it's not going away anytime soon. You can continue to play all these different modes and locations and characters and stuff. Like I think that it'd be nice to let them do something outside of Star Wars for a while.
Yeah, but I also want them to make more Star Wars stuff.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to have more Star Wars. But yeah, especially as we're now sort of on the precipice of a new generation, and depending on like how the infrastructure of this game was made and the resources and everything, maybe they want to look ahead at what a new installment would be on those next-gen systems, and moving that development over means development has to halt here for now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a good point too.
Yeah, I mean, either way, like it's cool to see this game grow and evolve so far. And I think they put out, what was it, sort of like a collector's or game of the year, game of the forever edition of this game that has everything, all the DLC, everything under one roof. I think it was like $30 or something. And this game's regularly on sale. If you love Star Wars, I think it kicks ass. It's super fun. And if you want them to keep going, I guess sign that petition. But yeah, maybe they want to just go make something new. Or maybe they want to work on Titanfall. We'll see what happens. Ladies and gentlemen, that is news, games, and more. Thank you so much for spending the hour with us and hanging out. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Alexio. Sorry we made your eyes roll for that half a second. That was a little Easter egg for y'all, if you caught that. And we'll be back tomorrow, followed by a full hour of Up at Noon Live, which I'll be on. And so thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you soon. Bye.